this morning. It's Indiana in the morning. All right, 7:44, and as we said, March is near its end. April begins on Sunday, I should say, and so there are special designations every month for various causes, and a very important one is coming up for the month of April. Ashley Pisarcik is with us, Jenna Petrone, and Whitney Carmichael. We're going to talk about that this morning. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
It's good to have you with us here in the studio on this Thursday morning. Ashley, the domestic, see if I get it right on the first try, okay? The Domestic Violence Sexual Assault Task Force.
You got it.
Hey! All right. Well, it's a very serious topic, and April is a month in which we focus in especially on topics of domestic violence and sexual assault.
Correct. April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. So during this month, there's the national theme is Your Voice Has Power. So that's what we're focusing on for the month of April. People are aware of sexual assaults happening. It's really big in the media. We hear every day with the Me Too movement, people speaking up about sexual assaults in workplace, in schools. So we just want to make sure that our community is aware of all the support systems that are here, all the number of agencies that are involved in our task force that will believe you, will listen to survivors, not blame victims, and encourage and promote consent being necessary in those kind of relationships and what that looks like. So we have a few different events going on in the month of April. We kind of want to highlight and also just get the information out to the community that there are people here to help and support them.
Absolutely. All right. So a task force has been formed, and it's been operational here in Indiana County for quite some time now.
Don't ask me how many years. But yeah, it's been a while. I mean, I've been involved for about 6 years now. It's been well long established before that.
Yeah. And you mentioned the number of different organizations which comprise the task force. So what are some of those organizations? Because I know, Whitney, you're with Alice Paul House, correct?
Correct.
And Jenna?
We're with the jail.
You and Ashley are both with the Indiana County Jail.
Yes. The CARE Center, which is the local organization for parent education, supervised visitation. We have members of CYS, member of the DA's office, member of the borough police and the state police. IUP is a huge part of our organization as well. The ARC, which is an organization here in the community. I know I'm missing some.
I know aging
services. The hospital, they send representatives over. It is almost any organization, company I can think of, we have a contact with.
Yeah.
Whether they're actively involved in the task force or they're just a resource for us. So it's wonderful if someone comes to someone in this community and needs help. Our hope is through the task force's long-reaching branches that we can get them to the right person to help them.
And the fact that there are so many different entities involved really points out that it touches every life in some way.
Absolutely. It doesn't matter if you're rich or poor or what race you are or gender orientation or what kind of relationship you have. Sexual violence, sexual assaults can occur to anybody.
Yeah.
Male, female. So we just want to get that out there, that there are people who will believe you, who will listen to you, and who will help you.
Now, Whitney, at the Alice Paul House, certainly that is one of the primary concerns, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think an important fact that we talk about often is it's been in the news a lot lately. And something a lot of people don't know that when we talk about, when we go to schools and talk with teenagers, is since the Harvey Weinstein incident of him being accused of sexual assault, over 100 individuals in Hollywood have been named since October in the public eye. And I think that's just crazy to think that that number is so high, but we know that the number is even higher. And in our county, it occurs on a daily basis.
Sure. It would be foolish of us to think, well, they're big celebrities and they have all kinds of money and that's a whole different type of environment, so we're not affected by something like that. Right. But it is everywhere, and it manifests itself in so many different ways. And at the Alice Paul House, of course, when you swing into action really quickly when you get that phone call, don't you?
Definitely, yeah. Part of our response is we need to respond within 15 minutes to a phone call, to an advocacy call out. So if the hospital or the police station calls, we have advocates on call 365 days a year, and they go out to the hospital to be with that victim through an exam, through the police interview, and through the entire process, so they don't have to walk through this alone.
And it is a process, and it's involved, and it can be very traumatic for the victims of sexual assault to have to go through all of that in order to get to the other side. At the jail, Ashley and Jenna, you both are involved in another whole angle of sexual assault, and that has to do with the perpetrators quite often.
And victims. I mean, we talk to inmates upon their commitment, and a lot of people have had their own victimization. And you're right, there is the other side of the perpetrator. We work with the Alice Paul House. They'll come into the jail to meet with people there who need help. So it isn't something that we want to constrict who can get services, who can't. Anyone who's suffered, who needs someone to talk to help them through the system, we will provide them that support.
Yeah. Jenna, let's talk a little bit about how the task force works and some of the things that are concerning to you.
Yeah. So this month, the month of April coming up, we have a lot of events going on to show our support and to show that we're out there. One of the biggest events that's happening in April is the annual Take Back the Night March and Speak Out. That will be held on Wednesday, April 11th, starting at 8 p.m. in the Putt Delaney Courtyard. And what happens there is students, community members, anyone is able to come, and we march around IUP campus to show our support. And then after the march, it's followed by a Speak Out in the Hub Ohio room. And that is a chance for survivors to tell their story. And this year, they're actually going to be having therapy dogs at the Hub in case they need them there. And then the Alice Paul House advocates are also there if needed for survivors.
And of course, that's IUP-centric because it is organized on campus with IUP involvement. They're very, very concerned and have special organizations and mechanics in place in order to handle sexual assault on campus, but it reaches out into the community, and so they invite the community to come and take part in it.
Right.
And Whitney, of course, Alice Paul House with advocates going over to the campus for that event. They're very familiar with the campus environment as well,
Yes.
because that's a mix of people who don't know one another, and all of a sudden they're thrust into this big new community of which they are members, and it can be difficult for victims of sexual violence on the IUP campus really to sort through everything that they have to deal with.
Yeah, definitely. And we're there we go for the actual march, but we're there for the Speak Out in case someone has some type of traumatic reaction that they really need to talk about their sexual assault, and they don't feel comfortable getting up in front of a group of people to share their story.
Yeah. That particular aspect of Take Back the Night is so moving and so emotional, and really just psychologically can absolutely devastate somebody. So for you to be there and to be able to advocate on behalf of those people and to support them.
Yeah, and it feels great to be able to be a part of that because you get to see these people who have worked through this traumatic experience and can say, I can stand up and tell you my story and talk about it. And that just in and of itself makes anyone emotional, whether you've been a victim or not.
And it encourages people to maybe come forward with their own story or certainly to not bury it within themselves. It's something that they have to deal with. Otherwise, it's going to be there and it's going to infect the rest of their lives. Yeah. Ashley, what else?
You'll definitely see it, but across the street here at the courthouse, above the courthouse steps, we're going to have a banner that states, April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and it is also Child Abuse Prevention Month. So there'll be a banner across the courthouse showing support for survivors of both. You'll see the Pinwheel Project, which I know the Care Center will talk more about at the courthouse. They're part of our task force too. We don't want to forget that April is also a time to remember children who have been not only sexually abused but physically abused in this community, to get that out there so that people can look at the banner and see it and then think about it. Like, okay, what does that mean? Or if there's someone struggling, oh, wow, someone in this community cares enough to do that.
Sure.
You'll also see local businesses. We created a sign that just says, embracing that your voice has power, to reduce victim blaming and seek consent before relationships. So we'll have a little banner with the Alice Paul House's contact information on it. I'm sorry, it's not a banner, it's a sign. We're going to ask local businesses to display, whether it's at their cash register or at their window. The hope is, people in this community, when they're walking around and see a sign at a business, they may go to that business owner and say, I see this sign, I want to call them, something happened to me. The hope is that people don't have to suffer. They'll feel empowered to maybe share their story or to seek help.
So much of domestic violence and sexual assault has to do with education and knowing what is proper, how to properly pursue a relationship, how not to act inappropriately, how not to carry things way too far. With the task force, are there efforts to get into schools or speak to organizations that can sort of open the eyes of people as to what is really proper to do and what is not?
Absolutely. I know Alice Paul House does a lot of that work too, and they're always willing to train, and Whitney can talk more about that, to train employers if they want to have a training for their staff to identify these issues, whether it's in their personal life or with customers.
Yeah, I mean, part of my entire role at the Alice Paul House is education. So whether that's community education, professional education, or school district education, we have an entire department focused on that, and we actually serve all 8 school districts in our county and go out to all the elementary schools and any high school that's willing to let us come in and talk to their students about healthy relationships and boundaries and dating violence and sexual violence. So we're willing to come out to any business or organization and talk about Alice Paul House services or talk about any topic that they're interested in that revolves around crime victims.
So for folks to take advantage of those services,
Definitely.
what must they do? Do they need?
All they have to do is call and ask for Whitney,
Oh,
and we can schedule a time to meet and talk about what they would like us to talk about, and then we can come out and do a presentation for them.
I just got an image of the bat signal going out.
Yep,
a
just
big W.
just a big W.
Big W in the sky
Yeah.
for Whitney. But that's wonderful that you're able to do that. And I would assume that when you get into those environs, you probably open a few eyes, especially for younger people that don't even realize that their conduct is not the way that people are supposed to act toward one another.
Even with everything in the media, I think families are having these conversations way more. Schools are having these conversations about not just good touch, bad touch, but any touch that makes you uncomfortable. So it's unfortunate that all this has happened in our society, but the positive we can take out of it is that it's becoming something that we can talk about.
Yeah.
And I think we're definitely seeing a shift in, we used to talk about how to not be a victim, and to let's talk about how to not be a perpetrator. Because ultimately, those are the people that should be held accountable. We shouldn't be holding the victim accountable for something that they couldn't prevent happening to them, which is very important.
All right. April is a Domestic Violence Sexual Assault Awareness Month. We'll certainly pay more attention to that. Jessica Clark's going to come in and talk to us from the Care Center as well. Ladies, thank you for being with us this morning.
Thank you.
We appreciate it very, very much.